strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal?
If that was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in the
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the RoundTable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis program. I'd love, that sounds like a...
I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows...
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now. And he ain't going to fight. I bet you anything. He's not going to fight somebody as good as John Wright. Thanks to those joining me live and those who have been joining me on the archive. This is the 194th edition of the Round Table, being joined by Joe B from Ringside Reporter, Gail from nyfights.com, and of course, Roberto Diaz. How y'all doing?
Doing excellent.
doing great? Doing great.
Yeah, for sure. A lot to talk about, a lot to touch on. Last weekend on Saturday, the GWOAT, Clarissa Shields, wins her fight against her opponent, obviously, who was the reigning WBC heavyweight champion. So she grabbed that belt, and the vacant WBA light heavyweight belt was also on the line. For those wondering how they worked that out, they weighed in at under 175 pounds. Both those bouts were on the line. The WBC does not have a light heavyweight division, but they do have a heavyweight division. So there you go. And that is what happened. Clarissa Shields wins by knockout second round. I don't want to toot my own horn. I saw it coming a mile away. I knew that stoppage was going to happen, and it happened. And hey, if anything, she made noise. Shabib, what you make of her performance, and where do you put her achievement here?
This was a master class. I mean, you know, only the second fighter in 100 years to win the middleweight title and the heavyweight title. And also, too, man, she is a junior middleweight champion, too. So I don't think there's ever been a junior middleweight champion that won a heavyweight title. And, you know, people are not realizing that Vanessa LePage Joannese was ranked on BoxRec number 2 at light heavyweight. So, I mean, this was the best that the division had to offer. She moved up in weight, and she carried some power up there with her. Had a lot of muscle mass on her, so she was ready for this. She looked in great shape. So, you know, she enters the realm of fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard and Floyd Mayweather, having titles in 5 different weight classes. My hat goes off to her. My hat goes off to her.
Gail, what are your thoughts?
Listen, we all know that the level of opposition was, shall we say, minimal. Although LePage Joannese did earn her right to be there. And it wasn't Estrada versus Atkins, and I'll just leave it sitting there. Yeah. Roberto, I had to do it. But I was impressed listening to Shields before the fight, talking about how her training felt at this weight, how her power felt at this weight, because the knock on her has been, well, she's boring to watch because, skilled as she is, she doesn't ever get any knockouts. Well, she got her third, and it did show that the power carried up when she fought at a bigger weight to, you know, put on some more muscle mass. And she talked about how much she enjoyed the process of going up in weight, training at weight, putting on the muscle. The problem for the women's side of the sport is that once you get much beyond 154, 160, there's just very little competition. I mean, it is just a physical reality. There are not many women at those weights competing. Clarissa faced who was available. She took the opportunity to get the belt. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't do that? But she's run through nearly everyone there is, and she's in a very similar position as Layla Ali was. It's just, you finally just run out of people to stand in front of. I don't know what she's going to do. Maybe she'll retire early at 30, continue to fight in mixed martial arts, find something else to do. Be very interesting to see the outcome of the movie about her life coming out this fall, whether that opens any different avenues to her. But hey, she has a sizable amount of haters. But look at her accomplishments. She's done everything asked of her. She's faced every challenge that was legitimately open and offered to her and conquered it. And so the people who denigrate her, I'm really not sure where they're coming from, other than some people do not like a woman with attitude. Imagine that.
Well, we could agree with that. Roberto Diaz, what do you make of Clarissa Shields' performance and what her accomplishment here?
I think we all expected it. I expected it as well. I expected a quick knockout. I was hoping for a quick knockout just to. I didn't tune in to watch it, but just to get that, she can get the knockout. She does have the power. It's not her fault. She doesn't have the competition. She is one of the top fighters in boxing. It's sad that she doesn't have somebody to dance with, like Serrano does, like Katie does, like Senicia and Yokasta do. They can rumble and fight each other, and she doesn't have that dance partner unless she goes back and fights Franchon and fights Green, and the competition's going to be fighting the same opponents, and you've done that already. You're looking for new achievements. Can't blame her. She saw that wide open. She went in, got it done, and it's another check mark. So props to her. I don't see what much more can she accomplish. Not that it's much more for her to do in boxing. So I agree. Does she go to mixed martial arts? Does she go to movies? Does she go, to carry on and do something else, play basketball? But it's not for a fighter in itself. There's no challenge either. So it has to get to a point where it gets like, okay, who do I fight next? Nothing can lift you to train hard and have a challenge.
At my job, we deal a lot with metrics and we deal a lot with performance, and if we have to consolidate certain things, make certain movements, and so I can't help myself when I look at the women's divisions above 154 pounds, right? And my, if we want to call it a concern, is not, let me just shit on it and just leave it as it is. I actually believe I have a solution. I think what they should do is all those divisions, 160, 168, 175, the WBC's heavyweight, just make everything above 160 the heavyweight division. Like, if that is a solution, it fixes the problem. All of a sudden, you don't have all these women fighting for vacant belts, and you don't have women that, quite frankly, should not be in title fights, fighting in title fights, okay? Because the top girls are going to be the top girls, okay? I said this from the beginning, since last week. This was a step down, not in weight, but in competition for Clarissa, and I said it's going to be the easiest fight of her career. Her pro debut was Franchon.
Yeah.
Like, her pro debut was a tougher fight than this, right? So I saw it coming a mile away because the quality of the opposition just wasn't at the level of Clarissa. That's not Clarissa's fault, right? But I just think consolidating those weight classes would be a solution. Now, she does have some options, okay? There's Lanny Daniels from New Zealand and Che Canelli from Australia, because those two girls don't have any competition either, right? Now they still can't beat Clarissa. Like she's still going to make it look easy even against them. But that after those two, I don't see who else you could fight. I have no idea. Her one rival is Savannah Marshall. And I believe the Savannah Marshall fight was a very close fight. After the fight, Clarissa even admitted that she couldn't see out of an eye because she hit her so hard, and everything was there for the rematch. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen, right? Maybe egos got involved. I don't want to go back to England, or she felt like I just want to kind of trash her the next day, whatever it is. But it didn't help propel the division, in my opinion, because there's nobody else, right? Like there's literally nobody else. And then they want to talk about doing a rematch in mixed martial arts. Just do it in boxing. What are we doing? I'm not interested. Maybe it's just me. I'm not interested in Shields fighting Marshall and MMA in a rematch. I just don't like. You are both the best at what you do over here. Like, come do it over here. Like, I don't know. That's my opinion. But we'll see what happens. All right. And Roberto, I always wanted to ask you. So Gail brought it up, right? So, like, what went wrong in that whole process with that Sinisa fight? Because I'll never forget when I watched that fight. The bell rang, right, and the girl's like, and I literally go, oh shit, like she's about to get lit up, and then she got lit up. Like, what happened in that whole process?
Good question. I'll never forget. We lost the original opponent. The original opponent was, if I remember correctly, Jackie Calvo. That was the original opponent. She hurt her ankle on fight week. So regardless if it would have been Sinicia, Rocha, whoever on the stable, it was always very hard for me to go to a team and say, we lost your opponent. I would not stop trying to the last minute, to where the commission say, if you haven't found a replacement, the fight's off. I remember doing a fight at Fantasy Springs for Keandre Gibson at midnight the night before the weigh-in. I was able to find the opponent from Tijuana. So it was always very important to me to come back. I know the sacrifices, the weight cut, the ticket sales, the family coming. So when I lost Calvo, it was like, shit, I think it was like 4 days to go. What do I do? And I'm making calls left and right. Sinicia's dad actually called me and said, hey, there's a girl that will possibly take the fight. Call her manager. And she's undefeated. So I'm like, okay, hit 5-0. I think she had like 3 knockouts. So at that particular point, you're looking at a record that's going to get approved. If it was a big world title fight, yes, I'm going to look at video. I want to make sure my fighter is not in danger of losing. But when I see a fighter 5-0 from the Midwest and has fought in these little, I'm like, look, this is a chance. And I think she was close to 40. So it was a chance basically to save the fight. Now, where it gets bad is when I call the manager, because you can expect the trainer and the manager to say, yeah, we're going to win and we're going to beat your girl and this and that. But when I called, it was the husband. So that even made me think, okay, if she's way overmatched, well, even as a manager, maybe they'll do it. The money wasn't tons of money. It wasn't a big payday. I'm thinking it was maybe, if I remember, $10,000, if at that. But when it was a husband, hey, if he really cares for his wife, he's not going to throw her in there. Well, then I found out maybe he doesn't. But sure enough, he's like, oh, we're ready. We're training. We're ready to go. We'll take the fight. Now, she did convince everybody everything was good leading up to the fight, because in the fighter interview, she had everybody convinced that, this was a dream come true, fighting for, I think it was her mother or grandmother that was ill, and like coming back from an illness. I mean, it was like all the perfect story up until that bell ring. I didn't go to the event. I'm at home, turned on the TV, and just like you said, when I saw this, I'm like, oh my God. Now, to Sonicia's credit, she did, you know, when have you ever seen Sonicia really go out like Mike Tyson like that? But I've always wanted fighters, when your level is so much better than the competition, do what Sonicia did. Get them out there quick, because it could turn ugly on you later. So yes, it was horrible to watch. It was, I mean, I got messages that I should have been arrested and this and that.
Oh man.
But it made ESPN highlight knockouts I think of the year or something. So I was like, okay, Seniesa, for those that said you had no pop, ever since you signed with me, we got like 3 or 4 knockouts, and now we got knockout of the year. So let's keep going and forget about this one. So yeah, that was something, one of those dark days in boxing for me.
Fastest knockout in women's professional boxing history. And Roberto's absolutely right. It is a kindness to take out somebody like that quickly. If they recover from just a few shots, they're going to be fine. You drag them through round after round. It's like tying them to the bumper of a truck and dragging them down the rocky road. You don't want that to happen. Seniesa did exactly the right thing. And I'm pulling poor Roberto's chain on that, but it's worth hearing the story, because these things do happen. And
what was the record again?
Generally is a cascade of events, and there you end up with something like this that nobody intended to have happen. But next time, come on, Roberto.
I saw you. I saw you posting it. She was 5-0 with 5 knockouts.
Yeah. I mean, come on, that's what the record said.
I guess what I'm wondering. So she wasn't even at like the at the open workouts.
No. That was a small show. That was a small Fantasy Springs card. So we didn't.
Because I would think like just for shadow boxing, people would have caught on maybe like
right there.
You know what though? The fighter has a responsibility not to put themselves in that position.
Yeah.
For her husband. I mean, what were they thinking? They stepped forward. They volunteered.
She must have like cheated on him or something. I don't know. Like I could see.
or more like him on her. But they both said yes. They bear some response. They really do bear the responsibility.
When you and one of the reasons that in the past when it's come up, I always like the idea of one federal commission. Not every state has a commission, because here's a fighter who's set 5-0, 5 knockouts, but take her to California, take her to New York, take her to Texas, take her to Vegas, and she shouldn't be fighting.
Yeah.
But who did she fight to win 5-0 and 5 knockouts? So
yeah, who did she knock out?
Exactly. So that's like, wow. But if you have one,
four of the women she knocked out, it was their pro debut, her opponents. But that's the Kansas commission. So that's the problem. And we see this, and we have seen horrible outcomes and terrible judging in states where they just don't, no fault of their own, have no experienced judges or referees. And you're at these tribal casinos in Iowa or West Virginia or, somewhere. The fights at this level should not be happening.
Yeah. I heard that some of the opponents
under those commissions
had actually been strippers. So it's like, it's like, whoa, no wonder. Maybe it was the pro debuts.
Yeah, wow. Maybe. But yeah, don't put high level fights like that in places that don't have experience. Oklahoma, one of our commenters says, yeah, that's absolutely the truth.
I've been telling people about Oklahoma. Nobody wants to listen to me. But, that's why we always beat the Sooners, But let's keep it moving. Now we got a big fight card in terms of like there's a lot of fights on this card. Crawford against Madrimov, and of course this is part of Riyadh season. They are, I guess, the main promoter, but it is in association with a bunch of promoters, including Matchroom and You name it. A lot of promoters are involved here. There's a lot of PBC fighters on this card, right? So a fight I want to start off with here, and we'll kind of see where we go from here. But Andy Ruiz and Jared Miller. First of all, this is just my opinion, but I don't like the fact that Jared Miller is even given this opportunity, in my humble opinion. I think he's thrown away his own opportunities by testing positive multiple times, plus the assault he committed after he came back to the States. I just don't understand why he keeps getting these opportunities like this. But with that said, it's the fight. I'm still going to watch the fight, and it's going to be fighting Andy Ruiz, who, after shocking the world, if this was Andy Ruiz fresh off of beating Anthony Joshua, where they sell out that stadium, it'll be sold out by now, just because Andy Ruiz is on there. But he's fell off so much since then. He lost a rematch. He didn't come in shape. No fault of Joshua's, and then he had a poor performance against Areola, but he still won. But he got off of the deck for that one. He said he lost too much weight for that fight. Okay, and then he had to fight with Ortiz. I thought it was a decent performance, but still, we haven't seen him. He hasn't been active. He's kind of forgotten here. Joe Beeb, what do you think of this fight?
It's an intriguing matchup because, Miller's been active, but obviously he had struggled against Dubois. It was a decent fight, as long as it lasted, but Dubois really put it on him late and got him out of there. But Ruiz, like you said, less than stellar performances against Ortiz and Areola. And Andy's been hot and cold his whole career. He's got a boatload of talent, but again, hot and cold. Now he's been off for these 2 years. So there's a lot of questions going into this fight. And Turki Al-Sheikh said the same thing. It's like, Andy's been off. We don't know how he's going to be. And we know that Miller always does come to fight regardless of what you think about him. Sometimes he comes in a little bit heavy, but he always does come to fight, throws a lot of punches, very aggressive, and he does fight hard. So you got to give him credit for that. He's good, really good on the inside. Both these guys are really good on the inside. So this could be a fun fight to watch. This could be like one of them phone booth type fights, right? Andy does not have really the one punch knockout power. I mean, he did knock out Joshua, but it was kind of like an accumulation. I mean, he did him with the left hook, but Joshua got up. So this is just going to be a fun fight. I think Andy should win a decision here. I'm not 100% sure he'll stop Gerald, but I think he'll win a workman-like decision in this fight, and I think it'll be a fun fight, as I said, and I think people will be happy at the end of this one.
All right, Roberto Diaz, Andy Ruiz, Gerald Miller, kind of a crossroads fight for them here.
I agree with Joe Habib. I mean, I think it'll be a good fight, a fun fight. It'll do what it's supposed to do for the fans in attendance and those viewing. I'm not interested in the fight, to be honest. I'm not, I could care less about it. I think Ruiz was brought in for the LA market. It's not going to show up in the numbers to support him. Pitbull, on the other hand, yes, they'll support him. The people are attached. There's a connection there. I think Andy disappearing for a couple of years, enjoying life, enjoying the fame, the money, has disconnected him a little bit. I think he wins. I think he wins based on level of competition. He's had the better competition. If Miller beats him, it's because that's it. It's over for him. But I think he'll be knowing that his back's against the wall and he needs to win. We'll see the better Andy, and I think he'll win based on speed. But again, I agree, a decision win.
All right, Gail, what you think of the fight?
As one of our commenters, Demetrio, says, it's going to be a nacho cheese plate slobber knocker. Good for you, man. Yeah, this is one of the opening fights. I mean, this is an undercard fight. The Saudis like Jarrell Miller, for whatever reason. And we saw him sell his fight with Dubois hard. I mean, I called it the fight the fans all hate to love. But it was so disappointing. You know, the trash talk leading up was world class. The performance was awful. He was slow off the trigger. He looked scared half the time. Dubois put him in his place. Now we're going to get him teed up for another payday by the Saudis, who don't really care about his problems here in the United States. For whatever reason, they like working with him. Management's made it easy, and they've decided, yeah, we need a few Mexicans on this card to add a little spice to it. But you know, they're a little tone deaf about the Southern California market, and I would really love to hear Roberto's thoughts about this. He has been involved in cards at this venue, which is going to boil people alive, having sat there myself. There's just a lot wrong with this. They're I think going to be very disappointed, and unfortunately, it is their very first introduction and experience, personal in the arena experience with the American audience. And if it doesn't go well, and I think chances are it will not be a raging success, so I'll put it that way. They're going to come away disappointed and thinking twice about how many fight cards they want to stage here. This was a horrible idea from start to finish. There's just a lot wrong with it. There are some great matchups, some great fights. It's the wrong place, wrong time, wrong staging. It's a jammed up card. It starts at 1 p.m., friends, 1 p.m. on a day in LA that's predicted to be 95 degrees with no shade other than the cover over the ring on the field in a dedicated soccer stadium. That seats 22,000 capacity for soccer. I don't know what they're going to add to it for on the field to make it capacity. But Roberto's dealt with that venue. I mean, it's fine for soccer at a game that starts at 7 o'clock when it's dropped down to the mid 80s on a beautiful summer night. Absolutely great. Sitting out there, starting at 1 o'clock. There are 8 fights on the card. There's one 6-rounder. The rest are all either 10 or 12. What are they thinking? Oh, and don't forget, at some point it's going to shut down for a performance from Eminem. Gosh, what's not to love? And this is, I believe, either the opening fight or close to it. Probably the 6-rounder is the opening fight. But you know, if they wanted to attract Mexican fans, forget it. They're all still going to be at home, or they're going to be in the parking lot tailgating where they got some shade and some drinks and food. So clearly they did not talk to anybody local who knows the venue, who knows the market. Should have called you, Roberto. They should have got you on the phone, man. You could have steered them right, because there were a lot of ways they could have staged this. It would have been a massive party and a great success. This is not going to be it.
I agree.
And Andy will win by decision. I don't think Miller can pull the trigger anymore.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of the fights here. So another heavyweight fight. Now, what I would have done, just me, all right. First, I would have done an indoor venue. It's the summer. I don't. What are you doing? I just don't get it. That's just me, right? But that's number one. And if it's an outdoor venue, I wouldn't do it in the West Coast, because it's still going to be relatively early over there. The sun's still out. I mean, I'm just saying. But that's just me. But I would have done Miller versus Anderson, big baby versus big baby, and I would have built it that way. That's what I would have done. Right, just if you're gonna have them both on the same card, and then I would kind of do a joke about it. Like, I would tell them, like, if I'm Turkey, right? Like, I'm putting up the money. Like, the loser needs to drop the nickname. Like, the winner keeps the nickname. There's only one big baby, and we'll put it in the contract. And I think I think that would have worked. But anyway, Jared Anderson against Martin Bakole. I know there's a lot of people saying that Bakole could be a banana skin. He's gonna sneak. He could upset Jared Miller. I'm sorry, Jared Anderson. I'm sorry. I don't see it. Right. I personally don't see it. I know there's people convinced of it for whatever reason. Okay, but I don't think Martin Bakole stands a shot in this fight. I'm not saying Bacole's a bad fighter or nothing, but maybe I can't get that Michael Hunter fight out of my head. But like I just know in my opinion, I think Jared Anderson is the goods, and I know he has said a lot of things that are very questionable. Like I want to retire after a couple of years and stuff like that, but I think he wins this fight. I think he wins it handily. It's probably a decision, but I think he wins it wide. Roberto, what you think of that matchup? Who do you think wins?
I agree with you. I think Anderson wins by knockout. I think, yes, he's made some mistakes in his talking and shouldn't say it. Even if he feels it, it's not good marketing for him. It doesn't show, his heart's really in it. Is it just a money thing and get some money and retire? But can't question that there is some talent there. He can move, he can punch, and he hurts the opponent. He'll finish it. I see him winning by knockout.
All right. Gail, how do you see this one?
I don't mind the matchup at all. I think it's a good test. It's the right amount of step up for Anderson. Top Rank doesn't want to put him in front of anyone that's a killer. Or outweighs him as much as Miller would. Miller would just overwhelm him size-wise. I think we're only really thinking about it and critical because we do see Ruiz and Miller on the same card. Otherwise, I think we'd be perfectly happy with it. Anderson, I agree with you, Roberto. If he had doubts about his career, I understand that from a personal, emotional perspective, but he needed to keep that to himself, because it did damage him. And now that's the only thing we think about is how serious is he? We're so shy of talent in the heavyweight division in the United States that there's a lot of pressure on Anderson. And for him to say, I'm not really sure about this thing, and maybe I want out early after I've cashed in a little bit, it left a sour taste. But, he's right now one of the few we have to dance with. Until we see what might come out of the Olympics. So there you have it. I think it'll be a good fight. It may not be the most entertaining fight, but it's the kind of fight where Anderson will get in the kind of rounds he needs to build his way up through the division.
Okay, all right. Joe Beeb, is this the banana skin? Are we like base the kid just said we're sleeping on? Are we sleeping on Bakole?
Possibly, but the thing is Cole's going to be at a big speed disadvantage here, man. I mean, that's going to be the problem, and he's not the greatest mover. He has a hard time getting in position. Like it takes him a while to get set up and stuff. And guys who are quick can give him problems. And I think Jared Anderson's very quick. He's got long arms. He knows how to use range. And Bakole tends to throw those clubbing type shots. And I think Jared Anderson, who throws the long straight shots down the middle, I think he'll have success. I think there'll be a lot of openings there. But again, Bakole is very durable. I mean, even in the Hunter fight, it took Hunter a while to get him out of there. It was kind of like a wearing down type fight. So I think Bakole is a slight step up. We saw how Anderson looked against Charles Martin. We expected more, and we're going to expect a lot in this fight. Will we get it? That's the question. So this could be interesting, but I have a hard time seeing Bakole win this fight. I think the only way he can win this fight is by knockout, and he can punch a little bit, but is he a dynamic one-punch guy? No. So I do see Anderson winning a pretty comfortable decision in this fight. Could have some little spots here and there of excitement, but I think this may be an uneventful performance from Anderson. I think he'll try to make this fight as easy as possible, and he's not going to engage in any unnecessary slugfest behavior in this fight. I don't think he's going to let Bakole get close because he has such an advantage from the outside in this fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think what's been going on with Anderson anyway is like 2 of his last 3 fights ended by decision. After we were kind of used to seeing him just knock guys out left and right. And I think it's made people maybe pause and think, well, is he really who we thought he was? But like, I get that. Even I expected him, right, to just knock out Charles Martin within 4 or 5 rounds. But even though it went to decision and I was kind of underwhelmed with his performance, I don't, he lost maybe 1 round though. It's not like, no, he's not like dropping rounds. He's winning in a way that maybe I don't prefer. I don't find exciting sometimes.
That's what it is. You may not like how he's doing it, but when you add up the scorecard at the end of the night, there's very few rounds that go on the other side. So
yeah. But I get why people have some pause or whatnot, and you know, people like to root or cheer for the underdog, and Bakole just knocked out Takam, so that there's some momentum there, and it is the heavyweight division, so I think it happened. We'll see. All right. Someone's asking who invited Beeb. I mean, it's his channel, brother. Like, what do you mean? What's going on? That's mayor. But anyway, and Andy Cruz will be on the card, by the way, guys. So with David Morel. I think they're both heavily favored to win those fights. Should be very, very interesting. I think Castro's on the undercard too, right?
Yes.
I think he's going to be on the non-pay-per-view side of it. So little Elon Musk will be on the card. You guys can tune in and watch it. You know what I mean? So
well, now let's stop and talk about that because there is an undercard taking place tonight on the Santa Monica Pier, a free event. And Castro is on that card tonight.
Oh,
okay.
3 fights taking place tonight that are been siphoned off. It'll be on DAZN. So if you have a DAZN subscription, not part of the pay-per-view, free to watch. But 3 of the fights were siphoned off. Thank God we'd have 12 fights plus a concert. That's a long ass haul if you're sitting there working.
Was it so? It was originally going to be on Saturday.
Yes, but quite a few weeks ago, this idea that, we're going to stage this sort of preview mini card on the pier tonight, going up against the Pro Box card. So you got your choices tonight. Castro fights on the card tonight, and I could look up and tell you what the other one is if I was lazy enough. But Castro is the main event tonight.
Okay, all right. Because I did see Turkey tweeting about it, and I didn't think they would do it on a different night. Like that's okay.
It's a very odd setup. I mean, it's part of it's just designed to be part of the promotion. So let me check this for you. It is on the pier. It is Mark Castro, Shakram Giasov, welterweight, undefeated, against Miguel Parra is the co-main, and then a prospects fight, Nathan Lugo and Ray Corona, and they are super middleweights. Those are your 3 fights tonight. Co-promotion between Bash Boxing and Matchroom.
I got called out for fake news. I apologize, everybody. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
On the boardwalk.
Yeah, on the boardwalk. There we go. Hey, look. First of all, my God, I wish I was gonna go if Zoo versus Ortiz was happening. I was gonna go. When this fight suffered hard when that fight was taken out, I couldn't believe that was an undercard fight. But I'm like, okay, shit, I'll watch that one any day, right? And I do believe there would have been some Australians in Los Angeles right now, and I think the Mexican crowd will really come out for Ortiz. It would have been explosive, but we're not getting that fight, unfortunately. But Ortiz will fight next week. Pitbull Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela. I was at the T-Mobile in March, late March, for the Zoo Fundora fight. Look, I know who the main event was, but that was an Isaac Cruz crowd. Okay, I was there. I heard it. He had the loudest pop of the night. He had it's not even close. Like, it's not even like it's debatable or like that was Isaac Cruz's crowd. He got the loudest roar after he won. Just everything. It was his night. All right. I believe most of those tickets were sold by Isaac Cruz. And even when I was outside, like people, Isaac Cruz t-shirts. I saw more Isaac Cruz t-shirts than any other fighter. There was people selling like bootleg Isaac Cruz t-shirts outside. I mean, it was crazy, right? When they're selling bootleg t-shirts of you made it, right? Just for any boxer out there, don't get mad because they're selling bootleg t-shirts of you. That's a good sign, actually. All right? Gail Cruz versus Rayo Valenzuela. This is a very underrated fight, in my opinion. I think this is a great fight. Who do you got?
I'm not sure if this is the pay-per-view opener or not, but this is the one right thing being done. This will be a fun fight, exciting, well matched. Rayo Valenzuela is a fun young prospect. He has an uphill climb against Pitbull. I mean, let's face it, this is a fight where Isaac is supposed to look good. But he'll have a lot to handle. Fans will love it. It's the right fight in the right place at the right time. Hopefully it'll cool down a little bit. But you're absolutely right. At the Zoo Fundora card, it was an all Pitbull crowd. I ran into a group of guys after the fight who had all driven up from Mexicali that morning to Vegas just to see Cruz. They were in it. They were into it. They were loud. They were flying their colors. They had their bandanas on, their head wraps, and had their flags. It was terrific. And he rewarded them with a great performance and, put Rolly Romero in his place. So they loved it even more. This will be an action fight. Should be fun. I'm torn whether it will be a late attrition type stoppage or whether it will go the distance. Either way, there'll be a lot of fun for all involved. Probably the most action fight of the night.
Okay. Jobib, Rayo Valenzuela, Pitbull Cruz. What you got?
It's a can't miss. I mean, we know Pitbull Cruz. We know what he likes to do. He likes to get on the inside. And he likes to bang that body. And he's going to have a long torso to throw punches at, right? And Rayo is game, too. I mean, even though he's tall and long, I think he's very versatile. He can bang a little bit on the inside, but I think he's a little bit outgunned at close range here. And I have a hard time seeing him dictate the pace of this fight and dictate how this fight is going to be fought, because Isaac Cruz is very underrated, I believe. You put me onto Isaac Cruz. I always liked Isaac Cruz, but you always said that he was better than I gave him credit for. And I think you were right, because Isaac Cruz does know how to cut off the ring. He's got very quick feet, right? And he's got a monstrous left hook. He can get you. Now, that's a guy that can get you out of there with one shot. Like, he has fight-changing power with that left hook. And I believe he will land that punch, whether it be to the body or to the head. It's going to have some negative consequences when it lands against Rayo here. So I think it'll be fun while it lasts, but I do have a hard time seeing Rayo make it to the end here. And I'm going to say that Isaac will win by stoppage, maybe 7 or 8 rounds here.
All right. Roberto, Rayo Valenzuela against Pitbull Cruz. What you got?
Well, I like the fight, obviously, like everybody else. I just don't like the fight not being the co-main event. I think that was the co-main event. It should have been the co-main event. He's going to bring in the crowd. I was in Vegas as well, and I was shocked to see the ovation he got. I mean, it was easy to win over the fans because he knocked out Rolly, but that made a new idol in Mexico. That day, I mean, he had already gotten a lot of love from the Mexican fans because of the tank fight. But that made him. That's, the title around his waist, willing to fight anybody, humble guy, not talking crap, just doing his job. and doing it the way that they like, coming forward, throwing punches. This is the fight that really should be the co-main event. I understand it was, and then they moved it. He's going to bring the fans. He's going to bring the crowd. And I think at the end of the night, they're going to walk out happy that went to see him. I see a very good fight. Rayo's going to come. He has a lot of advantages with the height, with the reach. He can pop. Robert Garcia is claiming, saying he's going to win by knockout within 8 rounds. That gives him that confidence as well. I know he has tremendous sparring there with Robert Garcia's gym, but it's not time for Pitbull to let go of that title. I see Pitbull winning a unanimous decision.
Right. I like Rayo. I still think he has a future and all that, but I think he's feeling himself a little too much. He knocked out Colbert. That's number one. I think that Edwin de los Santos fight, I get Edwin's a different fighter to Cruz, different style, but the one thing that stands out to me was the explosiveness. He just couldn't deal with it. And I think Cruz is a very explosive guy. I think his footwork is very underrated. And anyone who's talking about Rayo, Tank Davis could have knocked out. I don't think Cruz's knees ever even buckled. And Tank Davis landed bombs on Cruz. Okay, the same punches that knocked out all these other guys, just boom, one quitter hitter like that. He hit Cruz with a couple of those, and Cruz didn't go anywhere. Now, if credit to Tank, he took some big bombs as well and didn't go out either. But I think Cruz can knock him out, and I think he's gonna knock him out by the middle rounds. I think it'll be a fire fight, and I actually believe Rayo's going to try to box in this fight. I really don't think he's going to bring it like that. I think he's going to be forced into a fire fight, and then he's going to take him out. I think that's what's going to happen. I see body shots and then the upstairs opening up, and Cruz is so good at that. He works the body, he forces guys to drop the elbows, and he comes upstairs with that hook of his, and it's brutal. And I think he's gonna hurt Rayo. And I don't see it any other way. And people are going to have to start putting respect in Isaac Cruz's name. I mean, it's in my book. And if you guys don't want to give it to him, he'll just keep knocking down your dudes one by one, like dominoes. You know what I mean? And anybody who believes the fairy tale that the Tank Davis side tried to tell that, I didn't take him serious. My hand was hurt. Yeah, whatever. You were shooting that uppercut with everything you had until you hurt it on the guard of Cruz. That's what happened in that fight. So you can tell me all you want. If they ever rematch, it's going to be just as tough of a fight for Tank Davis. All right. Isaac Cruz is not going to get knocked out. Dude's got no neck. He's not going to do with no neck, right? Like, he's got a big head. He's got no neck. Like, I think if it comes out that Rayo broke his hand, it's not going to shock me. That's more likely to happen than Cruz getting knocked out. All right? Knock him out. Like, it ain't going to happen. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Plus, be pointing out the torso, right? As soon as they get on the inside, I think Cruz is going to be working the body, and it's going to be more room to work with. It's going to be his fight. And the quote-unquote advantages of the height and all that's going to be a non-factor when he gets on the inside. And Cruz is really good at slipping a jab, getting inside. And I just don't think Rayo is going to have much to offer on the inside for what Cruz is bringing. It's my opinion, but we'll see what happens. And that is that. Let's talk about the main event. So, first of all, I am very disappointed with the lack of buzz for this fight or this event, right? We always hear boxing fans they don't give us great cards. Look at the UFC. They put all these big names on the cards, and we're getting it. There's like no buzz. There's no – and I don't know if I could blame like the Saudis. They've done like the promos that they've done on the lead up are some of the best I've ever seen. Like, man, it's some good work. But I don't know if it's effective marketing. to make people get into the fight, though, right? I think people look at that like I'll be honest. When I looked at the Crawford Madrimov like little promo they did, it looks like a really cool like short movie, right? Kind of like if I saw it, I go, man, this is really cool. But nothing about it to me anyway. Like I know about it because I'm a boxing fan, right? But I bet you if we did if we sat down with 10 people that don't know anything about boxing and we haven't watched those promos, they probably say to themselves, oh, that's kind of cool. That's a cool story about these two fighters. So are they going to fight or what? Like they're not going to know, hey, we're selling you a fight. It's not, oh, I got to buy the fight. I can't wait to watch it. I personally don't get that kind of feel from it personally, even though it's well crafted, well put together. It just for whatever reason, it's not really helping. And from my understanding, I know some people live in LA, they're saying there's really no buzz for the fight like that. And that's very disappointing to me because so much money is being poured into this event, right? You know, Crawford isn't cheap, right? And some of these fights, look at Anthony Ruiz. He's turned out some fights because he wanted more money. I'm sure he's not cheap. And there's a lot of money. Eminem's not cheap. So we got a lot of money being poured here, a lot of fights, and it's not quite living up to it, right? So I just want to kind of give those thoughts. Gale, Madrimov, Crawford. Who wins this fight?
Well, let's talk about the matchup first of all. Remember who the promoter of this fight is. My dog disagrees with me, apparently. If you can hear him, pardon me. Madrimov is an Uzbeki. He is Muslim. And he is a favorite of the Saudis and Turkey al-Sheikh. They like him. He is a great draw for their audiences in Riyadh. And Turkey has his favorites, and he gives them opportunities on these cards. So that's where the matchup comes from. He's well known to the Saudis. Crawford agreed to the fight. I'm sure the money was attractive and decided, yeah, this is a guy, with limited professional experience with one of those long amateur careers. Yeah, I'll tackle him. I'll go up and wait against this guy and see how I do. I think that he's going to find out he bit off a little more than he anticipated, although I'll do credit to Bud. He seems willing to take on tough opponents. He does not shy away. Madrimov roared out of the gate when we were working with him on the East Coast back when I was doing work with Main Events, and Roberto probably remembers him from those for a few years right before the pandemic. They kept him very busy. He looked good. We didn't speak a lot of English. Things were very new to him. So he was a little tough to market. But ever since he moved out to the desert in India with the crew out there in the Diaz gym, he's become very acclimated. He's become a lot flashier than he used to be. But he has not fought a lot of fights since the pandemic in the United States. I think he's only had one fight in Texas since then. So he's just an unknown is the problem. But he's a dangerous unknown. He has been used, Dmitry Bivol used Madrimov as a sparring partner, playing the role of Canelo Alvarez before Bivol fought Canelo. There was a good reason for that. And Madrimov's been a sparring partner in a lot of positions to get experience that his record doesn't reflect because of the high level of competition out here. He is also going to be acclimated to the heat that day because he's out there in India training every day. That's not an inconsiderable quality that we need to take into account. I'm not sure Bud is quite prepared to be out there sweating bricks, even if it's at 9 o'clock at night. It's going to be a lot closer fight than people think. I do think Bud will win, but I don't think he's going to blow him out. I think that there's a possibility he could get rattled or rocked. The issue is going to be how many people after a long day of watching this card are still going to be hanging around by the time the main event happens, especially if you do have the crowd that's there to see Cruz and Valenzuela and some of the other fights on the undercard and the other Cruz on the card, Andy. By the time they get to Crawford and Madrimov, they may say, yeah, okay, maybe I'll leave a little early, beat the traffic, right? That's a classic move. I'll just watch it later. So we'll see what happens. I'm very curious also how big the in-stadium draw will be. What will ticket sales be like? I think that's going to be an issue. I really think it's going to be a big issue.
I'm surprised they're still available.
First of all, the prices are very high for this market. The Saudis are used to their audiences, dropping big money to see these big names in Riyadh. The LA market doesn't have people who are going to pay $500 for an upper deck seat. The cheapest seats, face value, are well into the $300. That's not realistic, especially if you are buying more than one or two tickets. So I would be very surprised. I'm going to estimate the official attendance at 15,000 and the real ticket sales under 5 figures.
All right. Okay. Joe Habib, Crawford, Madrimov. Well, how did you got to fight?
Very, very, very intriguing. And I always worry about Bud with the long layoffs, but he always seems to, just have these fights and not really seem like he misses a beat, right? But at some point you ask yourself, getting up there in age, if these long layoffs will eventually take their toll. And one interesting thing is when you see both guys together, Crawford looks bigger to me. He just looks like he's filled out really well at this weight. He looks like a really big 154, to be quite honest with you. Now, will that translate into more strength and more power? I suspect maybe it will. I really do. But the one thing about Madrimov, too, is he's a pressure guy. He is going to come forward. He is going to try to make the fight and dictate the fight. But Crawford is such a versatile fighter. I don't think I've ever seen a more versatile fighter than Terence Crawford. He could win in so many ways. He can do so many things. And he may just lay back and be the counterpuncher in this fight. But it's going to be challenging because Madrimov does change levels when he comes in, does move his head, varies up that jab in the way, he positions it, the placement of that jab, the speed he's going to throw it. He's not predictable. No disrespect to Spence, but Spence is kind of like that pattern type fighter, fights at a similar pace, similar speed. You know what I mean? As good as Spence was, when you look at elite fighters, like he's had some tough fights because I think people can the elite guys could kind of pick up on the rhythm a little bit because he doesn't change it up that much. But, it's like a fastball pitcher. He's throwing the fastball, but you still got to time it and get around it. So, what he did do, he did very well. But Madrimov, I think his offense, even though he doesn't have the experience of Spence, his offense may be a little bit more sophisticated. So that's going to be a challenge when he's coming forward and putting on the pressure. But something just tells me that Crawford's going to figure him out. I think he's going to lay back a little bit. He may not have to step to him, and he may catch him coming in, and he may just pot shot him from the outside. And but I'm not 100% sure Crawford stops him. I'm not sure because Madrimov, he just seems like a real gritty fighter. Like a lot of times when you see Crawford in these fights, he not only physically breaks these guys down, but mentally breaks these guys down because they throw everything but the kitchen sink. They try everything against Crawford, and he always has an answer for it. I don't think there's going to be any give in Madrimov. I don't think he's going to waver at all mentally. I mean, I get the sense that he has this, a high level of mental toughness, and I'm sure he's been through some stuff through his amateur career and going up to that amateur system that he's had to go through. And I think that this can be interesting. But I think this fight actually goes the distance. I'm gonna pick Crawford by decision here.
Okay. Roberto Diaz, what you think of this main event fight?
I love the fight. I mean, one, I do believe it's in the wrong city, in the wrong place. If this fight was in Vegas, you'd hear the buzz, people traveling. When you go to Vegas, it's a weekend. When you go to LA for a big fight, it's not a weekend thing. It's the locals coming in. Nobody really flies out of town to come to LA for a fight from other countries. I mean, I'm sure Turki Al-Sheikh is going to have a lot of his guests over. I believe it's his birthday weekend, and it's a big party. And, so he'll have a lot of people coming out. But this fight is not meant for LA. And I think that's why we're not getting the buzz from it. As far as the fight itself, I'm a huge fan of Crawford. I've always liked to get certain fighters and compare them to greats from the past. And I think Crawford's one of the only fighters that I've ever put to say, wow, this guy can beat guys from the past. And he could beat not just guys, the greats from the past, and compete with greats from the past. I see him as a modern day Marvin Hagler. That's who I see in Crawford, a guy that has this chip on his shoulder. He fights both stands. He breaks you down and gets you out and continues to prove it and not get the right respect. With that said, I think it's a very dangerous fight. I think in Madrimov you see a lot of similarities is Bivol. These are guys that have never been shown how to be beat. They've never been beaten. They don't know how to lose, and they believe they can win. And I think Madrimov is very, very up for this fight. I think he's very, not going to say overconfident, not against Bud. He has to respect them, but as big of a fan I am, and I won't say he's maybe overlooking them and thinking in the Canelo fight. I think Bud is experienced enough and schooled enough to not do that. But I have a feeling we're going to see an upset.
All right. Team Batman Boxing says, I've got Madrimov. MAW says, hello, boxing fans. RoundTable on chat. Smash the like button, folks. Madrimov is dangerous in my honest opinion, but Bud has to dominate to entertain a Canelo fight, he says. Here's what I'll say. First, this has literally, in my opinion, all the red flags of an epic upset. All of it. Underrated opponent, under the radar, everyone's just kind of assuming Bud's going to win. Bud himself is just kind of a little... I don't know. I'm not seeing like that. Maybe it'll be different at the weigh-in or something, but I'm not seeing that same kind of like focused Bud like that. He's over here joking with Eddie Hearn, and he's over here just chilling with Turkey, and they keep talking about the Canelo fight, and I want to fight Canelo, and blah 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 blah. And I think the Canelo fight's in his head, to be quite frank. And I just think if Bud himself thinks it's just a give me, I'm gonna go in there, and he's got another thing coming. And everybody, you can go down the line. You can go down. All my videos are still. All my predictions for Bud fights are still up. Every single last one of them, I said Bud's going to knock out Spence. He's going to knock out Porter. He's going to knock out, without a doubt. I knew he was going to beat these guys. This one's different. This fight, not to mention Bud's moving up to this guy's weight class, and we could talk all day about why he looks bigger, but he's not bigger than him. Madrimov has a bigger skeleton than Bud, right? That he's just a naturally bigger guy than Bud, in my opinion, right? And I think we're gonna see that on fight night. I'll never forget when Carlos Quintana upset Paul Williams, right? And they interviewed Quintana after the fight. They're like, "Oh man, what a great upset!" And he said, "Look, I kept telling them, you're over here, you're talking about Manny Pacquiao, you're talking about Floyd, you're talking about all these guys, but you're not talking about me. You're going to fight me, right? You're fighting me, right?" And right now, all I'm hearing from Turki Al-Sheikh, all I'm hearing from everybody is Crawford Canelo. Crawford, like it's just some foregone conclusion, right? This is not a foregone conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. Bud could lose this fight. Bud Crawford could lose on Saturday night. And you know what's annoying about it to me? That's not how they're promoting this. You're promoting this like it's a tune-up. Like it's just a tune-up before the Canelo fight. And you're wondering why people aren't getting up for the fight. Like, well, there's no buzz for the fight because you're treating it like a glorified tune-up. That's what you're doing. Turki Al-Sheikh, he keeps talking about we're going to eat Madrimov and then we're going to fight Canelo after we eat him on September 14th. Like, no. You know what I do if I was promoting this event? I call Bud and I go, look, I think you're going to win, but I'm actually going to tell everybody you're going to lose. Right? I want people to say, oh, shit, but Crawford could lose this fight because that's how we're going to sell this fight. The fact that they're not selling the reality that Madrimov could win this fight is amazing to me. Like, I don't even know why they're not pushing that. The closest I seen was Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn came out as like, because he promotes Madrimov, but he's the only one saying it. Turki Al-Sheikh's talking about it, it's some foregone conclusion. Like Crawford, oh yeah, Crawford's gonna beat him, no problem, and then we're gonna go move on to Canelo. Like, what are we doing? I just don't like how they're moving with this fight and how they've been promoting this event. Quite frankly, they have not given people any reason at all, right, to buy this fight outside of diehard boxing fans that know better, right? We know Madrimov is good. But does the general public know that Madrimov's a real deal? You know what I mean? So that's all I can really say. But with all that said, is Canelo next for Bud Crawford, right? Is that where we're heading? Beeb, are we heading to that direction, assuming Crawford wins, Crawford, Canelo later in the year? Joe. I think he's having mic problems. But Gail.
What'd you say? I'm sorry. I got distracted. Apologize.
All right, so Crawford, Canelo, are we getting that fight next?
Yes. I believe so.
Okay. Hey, Gail. All right, so first of all, do you think that's the direction we're going? Crawford versus Canelo later the year, early next year?
No, I don't.
Really?
Canelo doesn't need it. Canelo can take an easier fight, make just as much money. His fans will go see him against anybody, as we will find out in September. I just don't see it happening. Unless there is a massive Saudi payday involved, which maybe there is. But that set aside, intrinsically deciding whether to take it for the matchup alone, no, I don't see it.
That's very interesting. To me, it seems like that's the direction we're going, but okay.
Well, the public tide may feel that way, but you're not getting in the ring. And you're not the one looking at the bank account, the upside and the downside. And, I have a perception that, Canelo is coming up to the end of his career here pretty quick. And you make decisions in a very different way.
Okay.
And for all those who get irritated about him ducking and cherry picking opponents, you know what? The man has earned the right to do it, to choose the opponents he wants and end his career the way he wants to. I don't begrudge him any of that. I may be disappointed about certain choices he makes, but I'm not angry at them. And, these are the guys that need to put in the work and step in the ring and perform. I don't begrudge them their choices one bit.
All right. Roberto, do you think we're heading towards a Canelo Crawford clash next?
I think Saturday is going to give us a lot of indication depending on how Crawford's body feels, how he performs. I mean, if he goes in there and does a number on Madrimov, it's going to be like, okay, his body hit this, he can move up and people will start accepting it. And that's going to excite Turki Al-Sheikh to say, I'm willing to put so much money to bring Canelo to Saudi Arabia and do this fight, Someone that's worked with Canelo for many years knows him. I don't like the fight personally. As a fan, I like it. If I'm as a fan, I like it because it's like that modern day Duran and Leonard, or Leonard and Hagler type fight, right? But business-wise for Canelo, it's not a good fight unless it's a lot of money that's going to be hard to turn down. And why it's not a good fight is everybody criticizes him for fighting certain opponents, right? And yes, this is Bud, legendary. You're going to be a Hall of Famer. However, Canelo's supposed to win because he's a little guy. So when he wins, nobody's going to give him credit that he beat Bud. They're going to say he beat a guy 2 divisions below. Bud is the type of fighter who can gain those 2 weight classes and give anybody problems. So what if he loses to a guy that's coming up 2 weight classes? Now people are going to say, see, he was never that good. So it doesn't really do anything for Canelo. It hurts him more than it does anything for him. So you're supposed to beat him, and if you lose, they criticize you and see he wasn't that good anyway. So it's going to come down to Turki Al-Sheikh coming in with this huge check that Canelo's going to say, you know what? I can't turn this down. I'm going to have to take it.
Yeah, I think I hear what everybody's saying, right? But he kind of, that same risk existed when he fought Jermell, right? If he would have lost to Jermell, right? I do think people would have said the same thing, right? Like, oh, he lost to a guy that moved up to weight classes.
I think with Jermell, though, it wasn't scheduled that way. He was supposed to fight Jermall. Jermall pulls out and says, hey, I'm not 100% here. Oh, crap, what are we going to do? Well, wait a minute. There's the brother. He's undisputed against undisputed. The people I don't know, maybe they'll confuse one brother with the other. I don't know. And now, I mean, look, Bud can do it. He can jump up to 168. If Canelo did it, he can do it. It's just what's in it for Canelo if it's not just about a big payday that says, all right, I'll take the risk, because Bud's not look, everybody that knows boxing can see Bud is forget about the weight class. This guy can fight. But again, we're going to see how he carries the weight. If out of 20 predictions on Ring Magazine, I was the one that pulled the upset. There was only 2 of us, Rudy Hernandez and myself. So if we're right, then that's going to go out the window right there. Then maybe Turki Al-Sheikh will come back and say, let's do Canelo and Benavidez.
Okay. No, I did see some comments here that I want to address really quick, right? So I stand by what I said. They're not selling this fight as some 50-50 fight that Bud Crawford could win. That's not how they're selling it. You could put in an interview. Oh, but he said in an interview you can't look past them. Every fighter has said that ever. Canelo's going to say that about Berlanga. Okay, he's going to say, "Oh, I can't look past him. I mean, he could be dangerous." Everybody says that. That doesn't mean shit to me. Nothing. Right? The reality is you could say what you want, but your actions mean more. Right? When Turki is actively going out of his way to tell people, "Oh, I want the Crawford-Canelo fight. That's the fight we're going to do next. That's the fight we're working. That's the big fight. That's the fight I want to do for Crawford." That doesn't scream you think it's possible he could lose to Madrimov. Mm-hmm. That doesn't tell the public, "Oh, this guy's really concerned about." You could say whatever you want, right? I can tell a girl, "Oh, I'm not interested in any other girls, baby. It's only you." But if this film of me, like, correct, getting a little too close to another girl, like my hands on her waist, you know what I mean? Like, I could say whatever I want to say. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, I could tell you I'm not going to move, but if I had plane tickets set up, if I'm already set up the U-Haul, and I'm already setting up like plans to move, I could tell you all day. No, you got. I may very well just stay. I mean, it's possible I'm just going to stay here. It doesn't matter what they say. Every fighter says, "Oh yeah, I can't look past that guy." Like that language doesn't mean anything to me, right? Everyone here knows that and again, it's my opinion, they have done a poor job in messaging that this is a very dangerous fight for Bud. A very poor job. That's just the truth, right? I'm not even putting that on Bud. It's not his. He's not supposed to do that. But Bud's supposed to act like he's the baddest dude on the planet. He could beat anybody up, right? That's not really on Bud, right? I'm just talking about the promotion of the fight, right? They've given us some very well put together short movies, right? Very impressive, but they're obviously not working. There's still a shitload of tickets left, right? You can tell me. We'll see what the pay-per-views do, right?
It's never a good thing when you're promoting a fight and then you're trying to promote a future fight at the same time, because that's how you devalue the fight itself. And by talking about Canelo, you're devaluing this fight.
100%.
I never
People say I might as well wait for the next one.
Yeah, because I think you made a great point, because by Turkey Al Sheikh talking about Canelo so much, putting it out on Twitter, and complaining about Canelo going up against the Riyadh season UFC card, right? And saying, "Oh well, I'll pay you fair to go up against Crawford," almost like telling him skip this fight and just go right to Crawford, and just looking at Madrimov like he's a foregone conclusion. I just don't think that's the way that you promote this card, and that could be part of the reason why this card doesn't have as much buzz as it should. But how many fights you think Canelo has left, anyways? Maybe four.
Great question.
3 or 4.
I like 3. I like 3 at the most.
Yeah, probably 3, right? Because I think
next year it's a wrap.
Yeah, I think honestly, starting to build up a pretty good little stable in his promotional company. He may go in that direction. He may really start focusing on that. And he's got a lot of businesses over in Mexico, has so much sponsorship money too. At some point, and then you get your family. At some point, you just say, you know what, this is it.
Yep.
This is it.
Do you need to make the hard way? I mean, there's just no harder way for Canelo to make money than to continue to fight after so much wear on the tires. I have said for years, and I'm partially joking, but I have started to think about it more and more over time. He finds golf a bigger challenge at this point than boxing. Hell, put him on the Live Golf Tour.
Golf
put him out there on the pro-ams. He needs to find another challenge. He has sure accomplished more than his wildest dreams, and he has generational wealth. Yes, Turkey could potentially offer him an insane amount of money. Does he need it? Does he have plans for that kind of investment in something?
Yeah.
His fate's in his own hand. He controls his destiny. And isn't that what ultimately we all want out of life, to get philosophical here? He put himself in that position by his own sheer will and hard work, developing the talent he had. It's a wonderful story. For us to begrudge him not taking this fight or that, or not fighting as long as we want him to, is ridiculous.
Early on, Canelo was very different, very mature. And I'll never forget the one time when Floyd would not sign. They were both going to be on main event, co-main event. Canelo was going to fight Austin Trout on the co-main event of Floyd in Vegas. And when Floyd wouldn't agree that should they both win, the next fight was them. Canelo said, okay, I'm tired of helping you on your pay-per-views. I'm going to step off your card and do my own thing. Well, he was told by doing that, he would be giving up half his purse. It was really done to bring him back. And he didn't care. He didn't care. And at that time, very young, not having fought Floyd, so he hasn't made millions of dollars yet. He said, it's not about the money. I don't care. So when that happened and he moved off the card and went to San Antonio to do his own card, and we only had 6 weeks to do it, I remember telling him, let's find another opponent. You're going to make half the money. Let's find another opponent that's not as risky as Austin Trout. Austin was undefeated, very tricky. And he said, no, I'm going to fight Austin Trout. I said, it's not the same money. Doesn't matter. It's not about the money. There was a thing with Austin Trout had beaten his brother to take his title. He had beaten Canelo's brother to win his title. So it was something personal that motivated him.
It was a grudge.
Exactly. But it was also like money wasn't the main thing. He always said, if I do my thing, keep winning, the money's going to come. And obviously in nobody's wildest dreams did we ever expect seeing these kind of figures that he's making. But, it's not a money thing that motivates him. It's a legacy thing that motivates him to do things. I think right now him not fighting Benavidez is more that every time he fights somebody that the people say he won't fight, there's a new guy that, but he won't fight this guy and this. So he's tired of that narrative. So he's like, you know what? You guys are never going to be happy. And I'm saying to the majority that the ones that hate on him or criticize him. So I'm not going to do it anymore that way. But I feel deep down inside we will see that fight. Because knowing Canelo, if the public wants it, and that's a legacy fight for him. Plus, I mean, he sees what could possibly be in front of him. And after seeing everything he's fought, I don't see him saying, oh, no, I don't want to fight this guy. He's too big or too strong or too dangerous. So, but again, when you say he has the money, yes, he's doing very well with businesses, investments, and a lot of different businesses out there. I don't really think we'll see him involved in the boxing part after he retires. But as much money, you always say, wow, an extra 100,000 or, it can go a long way for other businesses or more years to come. So it's hard to walk away. I can see, yes, his love for sport. He has been playing Pro-Am and doing very well at golf. And he loves it. Every day if he could do it, he'll be playing. But I do see him thinking, wait a minute, it's business. Let's go make, some more money.
Roberto, so as I'm hearing a lot of what you're like the story you gave about him saying, okay, I won't be on a co-main of a Floyd fight. I'm going to lose half of my purse, but okay, whatever. I'm going to do my own thing. That's cool. There's that. There's the whole speaking of the Floyd fight. He didn't get a lot of money given what he brought to that fight, and at the time became like the highest grossing fight in boxing. And he didn't quite get like that, but I think he sees that maybe anyway as like, look at the sacrifices I made to get where I'm at, right? And maybe he feels some type of way when fighters that want to fight him are not really willing to like give in to him a little bit. Or not like, and what I mean by that, to be specific, before somebody twists my words, what I mean by that is like, give me like, because I think people confuse the respect part. I think people see it as, oh, he wants him to kiss his ass.
No.
But it's not really that. It's acknowledge me for what I've done for the sport and the sacrifices I made. And if you're not even willing to do half of what I was willing to do, then why should I respect that? And that's kind of the sense I get with Canelo, right? I think it's a sense that these guys feel entitled to get all this money to fight him. And then they still want to battle him tooth and nail. And maybe he reached like his threshold, right? Because I've always said he was a very generous A-side, very. Offered off the bat $10 million to Plant. Like, here's $10 million to fight me. 10 times more than Plant's ever made. And they still played hardball with him, right? PBC tried to get him on a multi-fight contract, and think that had nothing to do with the Plant fight, and it didn't happen in September. It had to happen in November. And then, so he gave up that date. Last year, he didn't get to fight on the date either, but because of the whole Charlo thing. And maybe Canelo's reached a point where, like with this Berlanga thing, you know what? I'm tired of bending backwards for people. I'm just going to fight that dude right there, and if people don't like it, too bad. That's the sense I get. That's the point he's reached right now.
I think you're right. I think it's like, you know what? I came up, I fought everybody at an early age, very early. And I earned where I'm at. He's the Mayweather of today. You know, Mayweather was picking and choosing and fought Andy Berto and fought Robert Guerrero and people were showing up. And Canelo's fighting who right now is, you know, around available. I think, no disrespect to Berlanga, we talked about it last week. I think he'll get a knockout and people are going to be like, oh shit, Canelo's back. And then look, and then the talk again that, okay, Benavidez or Crawford or, you know, the bigger names. But I do see it. Look, he turned pro at 15. He's coming up on 33. All the years of pro sparring, camps, he still seems to enjoy it and look forward to it. But your body at the same time starts like, okay, you know, aches and pains and injuries and this and that. It can't be the same anymore. And I think it's the perfect time. One more year of saying hasta la vista. And that's when a lot of the fans are going to be like, what always happens once they retire is like, oh man, one more. I even said a couple years ago after the Ryder fight, I think this is perfect time. Canelo drifts off, doesn't have to announce a retirement, just drifts off, takes a little break, heals the body, lets these guys fight each other, put some miles on them, and let the winner earn the payday. Charlo fights Benavidez, this guy fights that guy. But the winner, the last man standing, says, okay, I'm the big dog now. Canelo comes back after a couple of years and says, okay, big dog, now let's do it. You've earned your starts. But a lot of these guys I want to fight Canelo because along with that comes the biggest payday of your life. Now, I said after, it would have been perfect timing, after Benavidez' last fight, Canelo says, you know what? Let's fight in September. Wait a minute. Now you're going to see. Well, Benavidez said he got cut, or he did get cut. Not that he said he had an injury. Does Benavidez take the fight in September? Has to lose weight now because he went up and come back down. Does he take the fight in September with short time? Then that tells you it's a money. Or does he step back and say, I'm not taking it for the money because I want there to go to win. But do you say that and then never know if that's going to happen again? Or now it's the ball's on your court and Canelo says, see, if you turned it down after all that talking because you can't be ready. So I think it would have helped him PR-wise to say, I'm ready for you in September. And if he took it, is Benavidez really 100%? But obviously it's Berlanga now and he has to take care of business. I think he will do it in an amazing fashion. And that'll open the door for what's next, a couple more fights. And hopefully those are the ones we want to see.
All right. So this has been a great show. Gail, we'll find out in a couple of months if the proper fight happens or not. We'll see. I don't know who's going to fight. I mean, I guess it's always going to be a surprise. All right. Shout out to everybody. It's Joe B, Ringside Reporter, Gail from NY Fights, and of course, Roberto Diaz. Always great to have you guys on. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing. We're out here. Peace.